the reason why I think Jacopo and I think we chose this specifically, this track, is because we've had so many times in that mosh pit to this track, breaking it apart, creating a wall of death, creating some sort of mayhem for just waiting for that breakdown, because we knew as soon as that first note was played, we knew what song it was.
I think what's incredible about this, again, like I mentioned earlier, I'm obsessed with this song. But, in that breakdown, when they just pause for a second and there's that soul ride cymbal that just goes ding, it's
cool, isn't it? Yeah.
Just beautiful. Oh, now it's cool, Ben. I thought you listened to The Downfall of Us All.
Yeah, that is probably one of their, like, heavier songs off that album, for sure. And I really, really fucking like it. I mean, it's a great tune. That whole album, I don't think I can tell you one song off that album I don't like. I even like, what's that one where it's like, if it means a lot to you? Yeah, even that, like, when it came out, like, that would be like, it still was a bit of a banger, to be fair. It's like when it drops, when it drops at the end and stuff.
Yeah, you're right. But the thing is with that song, what really annoyed me is that you had this following of people. I think it was like this big group of people who started to like A Day to Remember only because of their soft songs. And I'm like, that's not fair. You can't listen to Mr. Highways thinking about the end. Okay, that is, for me, true. Like, wouldn't say true Day to Remember, but like that's the metal side of it. And that's, but again, they touch bases. Like, that's why they have such a big audience, because they do have such a big vary in music. And then, they have been very consistent across most of their albums up to, up to now, I hope, in that sense. But talking about Homesick in general, I would say probably my favorite song off that album would be New Jersey Legion Iced Tea. It's just absolutely amazing, because I think it has the perfect balance for me. Like, it's got the pop punk, but it's also still got that metal vibe, and it's still got that really chugginess. And it probably will be one of my always top tracks ever.
Yeah, I mean, I think mine's got to be obviously Downfall of Us All. I couldn't really not go for that. But there's so many on there, like Another Song for the Weekend, Homesick. There's so many on there that are absolute tunes. But just go back to what you were saying really quickly, Mike. Again, it goes back to like that, people liking their softer songs and stuff. I guess it all comes back to like commercial viability, doesn't it? Because if you look on Spotify, if It Means a Lot to You is their top played song on Spotify, and it's got 151.5 million streams. That's crazy. And that just goes to show, like, I think how that it's almost like all the small things, do you know what I mean, of their kind of like discography.
Yeah, you're right. You're completely right. Yeah. And I think for me, this is one of my favorite albums of all time. Only because I think it's just consistently great throughout it, and it's one of those albums I can listen to and it flows so nicely. And I think ending on If It Means a Lot to You as a track is a really nice song to end on. As much as I can't really listen to it much all the time, if it comes up on shuffle, I'm a bit like, nah, kind of thing. But like, if for example New Jersey Legion Iced Tea comes up, I'll be like, yeah, kind of thing. But as an album flow, it ends really nicely. And Downfall of Us All, the way it opens up, I don't think there's a song out there as good as Downfall of Us All when it comes to the really mixing that pop punk vibe and that metal breakdown, personally.
Absolutely. No, I think Downfall of Us All is an amazing opening for the album, because it really sets the tone. It gets you going. It's like da 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 da. Yeah, it's just great because it gets you pumped, And If It Means a Lot to You, I think at the end just kind of wraps it up. It's a big album, It's an intense album. So I think having a song like that at the end that's soft, but it's still energetic, And it's quite interesting to have that, because it still has something to it. I think it's interesting that it's the most played song on Spotify. It's a very wide and broadly approachable song. Sure, but I wouldn't have said that off the top of my head. I would probably have chosen one of their more recent songs, just because that's usually how it goes with bands. Even if they have great older songs, and I mean bands from this generation, of course, not going into the classics, but with sort of like the pop punk bands, metalcore emo bands that are still around. They have, like what we were saying the other day with Fall Out Boy or with Brendan Urie. They're much, much, much bigger now than they were back in the day.
Yeah, 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 and that's interesting. I think we're going to touch base on that later on. Um, let's see what happens when we listen to the album, and really, hopefully, I don't know. I mean, my expectations are big. I have really big expectations for Days to Remember, only because they have such a great catalog of music. That the question is, will they continue to make the same sort of music that we've all known Days to Remember does? And because they have been doing that for what 5, 6 albums now, pretty much.
Yeah.
Or will they start to evolve and go down a different path? And it's really interesting because
Is it wrong to evolve though? Is also the question, Mike.
of course, 100%. And that's the thing. I don't know. I mean, for me again, I can't. It's very difficult for me to be objective about Days to Remember.
Yeah,
because
that's
anything they
going back and forth in the past
yeah.
days, because I wanted to choose Mr. Highway, and Mike's like, oh no, you just have nostalgia and mosh pit memories and everything. But it's true, and then Mike has that as well, and Ben has that, and we all have that. And what I found interesting was something that Mike said the other day, that sometimes you pick music and you love music, not so much for, how good it is or the quality of it or whatever, but the feelings that it invokes in you. And yeah, just how you feel while you put that album on or when you put that song on. And there are some albums that, even though they may not be the style of music that I would choose to listen to nowadays, it's maybe not what I'm into, it still has that same thing. If I listen to, I don't know, for example, the first 3 piano notes of Welcome to the Black Parade,
just the first one.
But it's like immediately, it's like shivers, and you automatically know the whole song.
Yeah.
Is it the best song of all time? Maybe not, but
Yeah.
you get what.
You're right. You're completely right. But going on from this, I think Homesick is for me one of the best albums I've ever listened to, and it will always be one of my favorite albums because of maybe the feeling, because of the memories, because of the time that I was introduced to it. Maybe if I was introduced to it now at 28, maybe I don't think I'd take to it the same way. I don't know. I have no idea. But the expectations after this album were so high, so high.
Absolutely.
And I think what separates me from you, that came out in 2010, I was expecting big things. And realistically, the album is quite short. It's only 10 tracks on that. And I remember listening going, why is there only 10 tracks on this album? It's quite short in that sense.
Like
yeah, it's actually only 32 minutes long, which is it's nothing really if you think about it. And I was quite surprised when that album came out. I was like, this isn't enough for a day to remember, surely. Come on, give me more. I want more. But on that note, probably one of the best tracks on that album would be All Signs Point to Lauderdale. And I think we're going to put that album on this playlist now. So yeah, take a listen and we'll chat to it afterwards.